come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Partu. Joining me today is Steve Baxey, the hardest working man on YouTube. Hello, Steve Baxey.
Hello, Ian. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. Not too bad. Just got off work, and we're gonna go to work on this review of Iron Man.
The Invincible Iron Man.
The Invincible Iron Man, correct. So, you know, Steve, whenever I watch something and I don't quite have a fully formed opinion on it, I've got general things. Whenever I watch something for this show and I don't quite know what to make of it, what I tend to do is go watch other reviews if I have time for it. And I found two for this movie, and oddly enough, one of them was from LaserDude 2099 or whatever.
Oh, what happened to that dude? It's been forever.
Yeah, it was not only was it from him, but it was for the WRTR contest.
Oh, wow.
This season, so I was just like, oh wow, that's really strange. Geeky Gentleman is kind of coming full circle. And you know when that video was uploaded?
When was that?
In 2010, and I feel old.
God, that was 6 years ago, wasn't it?
Right?
This movie is almost 10 years old, and I remember buying it when it first came out.
Oh, that's strange. Okay, so we were talking about this a little bit on Twitter, and so I guess I'll start with the question: what exactly made you think this would be a good idea to talk about?
Okay, twofold. One is that the last couple of videos we had, the existentialism one, which I wasn't there for, but was a good video, and the one before that about the superheroes and moral exemplars and all that stuff. I feel like it was going really, really highbrow and interesting, and that's great, but it's always good to have something that brings you back down to something more concrete to discuss. So I went for one of the animated Marvel movies, because I know all of them really well, and they're really bad, but in really interesting ways, so I figured we'd get a good conversation out of it. I should have picked Ultimate Avengers, because this movie is just one big nothing.
Yeah.
And I guess the whole point of it for me now is just I'm a really big Iron Man fan in the comics, and so I want to talk Iron Man.
That's fair, and I was really curious because I know you and I had talked about in the past that you've gotten really big into Iron Man comics over the last couple of years, and that's kind of affected your ability to enjoy the Robert Downey Jr. films to the point where you wouldn't quite call him Iron Man anymore, right?
Yeah, I think it's more of the comics have Tony Stark and Iron Man. The movies have Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man.
Gotcha. All right, so I guess my question is this comic book Iron Man?
Kind of. Sort of. Not really.
Is it more comic book Iron Man than Robert Downey Jr.?
Yes. Okay, the first thing I'll say, for at least this version of Iron Man, is I think the voice actor is perfect. It's the same guy that plays him for the Ultimate Avengers movies, and I'm not sure if he does anything later, because Iron Man shows up in Next Avengers, and I think he shows up in one of the other later movies, but they keep recasting him, so I don't know if it's the same guy after this. But I do like his performance a lot. The problem is just the animation is so stilted, so sometimes the lines come off as kind of wooden. But it's a business-focused Iron Man. Everything in this movie is about him and Stark Industries and him running Stark Industries, so that's very comic book. The way he flirts with Pepper and such is very comic book. This is back when Iron Man was first being made, so Robert Downey Jr. was kind of in the air, but he hadn't influenced the comics yet, and so this was kind of dancing around the... Because in the 2000s, after Civil War, before Civil War, we had the whole... Tony Stark is the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they kind of reinvented him to be full-on James Bond, and so this Iron Man is sort of a weird in-between point between Robert Downey Jr. and James Bond that was in the comics at that time.
Okay. See, it's just interesting because, like, I don't agree that he gives a really good performance. I do feel like a lot of it just kind of feels like I can tell he's reading a script kind of thing.
That's fair.
And I don't know, like, you talk about how this is Tony Stark running Stark Industries, and I guess, but then it feels really weird that his dad's around. Like, I don't know what the power dynamics of Stark Industries are from watching this movie, because, like, his father's the chairman, but Tony Stark's somehow running the company, and the board's involved, and I don't know what's going on.
From what I can gather, Tony's dad runs the company. Tony has his own division, and everyone else are just board members of the company as a whole. And Tony's division is the only one making obscene profits, but it also has obscene costs.
Then what right do they possibly... If he's making obscene profits at obscene costs, then what rights do they possibly have to vote him out?
I don't know. It's
strange.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's just really strange. And the other really, really odd thing, and I want to make sure I get it in here early.
Sure, yeah.
What the fuck era is this set in? Because all the S.H.I.E.L.D. people have, hats, and all the cars kind of have that jet engine 60s look to them, and it's strange. It's like, did you notice that of like the cars in the background? It's kind of like trying to do that Batman animated series, it's in its own time kind of thing, but no, it's not.
And this was 2007, so smartphones weren't everywhere yet, and there's a whole bunch of weird, inconsistent cell phone stuff throughout. Like, some people have got flip phones and other people don't, and it's really bizarre.
It's kind of weird to go back to, Iron Man, the first Iron Man film, and Tony Stark says MySpace, and then the second one he's got that weird, like, Nokia, or weird flip phone that does a little triangle thing. It kind of looks like a T. It's just strange.
Weird, but it definitely looks futuristic.
I guess. It just... I kind of like the idea of, if you're going to do futuristic technology, if you're going to give people cell phones in movies or whatever, give them the most modern cell phone possible, because by the time your movie comes out, it'll be ancient. Anyway, no, I wanted to get that one out there. Yeah, there's a lot of really, really weird things about this movie, and so it'll be fun to talk about them.
This is when Marvel and DC both wanted to put out a whole bunch of animated movies, and Marvel has just stopped doing them at this point, and DC is just doing the New 52 ones and then occasional adaptations.
Yeah, and I think DC was always better, and, like, the quality's been, questionable lately, but I don't know, I'd still rather watch Throne of Atlantis than this.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far, because this is just a nothing movie. Throne of Atlantis, I think, is just awful. But comparing just the first couple releases, Ultimate Avengers versus Superman Doomsday, I'll give it to Doomsday. Ultimate Avengers 2 over New Frontier. And then this and Gotham Knight, I'd give it to Gotham Knight.
Yeah, and that's pretty bad, because Gotham Knight's also a lot of nothing.
Yeah, it's not a very good movie. But then I think it just speaks to your point of the DC movies, even if they aren't good, they're better than the Marvel ones, because at least they are a little bit of something. Yeah,
like the Marvel ones, I think the one that pissed me off the most was Hulk vs. Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Hulk vs. Thor, I mean, it at least delivered on what it was supposed to be. Hulk vs. Wolverine, they have, like, one fight, and then it goes into this whole Weapon X thing, and Deadpool's around, and he's hilarious.
He's great.
And then at the end, Hulk and Wolverine, like, go, like, they're about to attack each other after everything's been solved now. And then it just still frames them like, you guys realize you made a movie called Hulk vs. Wolverine, and you didn't really have Hulk vs. Wolverine proper, right?
And the Marvel movies had a habit of doing that because so much of them just felt like commercials for something else. Like Hulk vs. Wolverine was basically just a commercial for the Wolverine and the X-Men TV show where they continued some of that. And then this movie's just a commercial for the eventual Iron Man movie that came out next year.
Yeah.
And the DC films, even if they're bad, they still have, and this speaks to your point about casting, they at least have some inspired choices. Like, no one in this movie is anywhere near as good as James Marsters as Lex Luthor in Doomsday.
Right. There's just, like, so many things, like, I'm trying to think of, like, a really good example. Neil Patrick Harris's Nightwing was fantastic.
He's great, yeah.
There's so much stuff like that all over the DC universe or the DC animated films. Like, people don't like things. The New 52 ones have been disappointing. I don't know. I could still enjoy Throne of Atlantis as dumb action, if nothing else. But
that's fair.
We did a review of it. I didn't care for it very much, but I liked it more than this. I think at least Throne of Atlantis was consistent in its animation.
Yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to ask you about, is what do you think of the animation?
I don't know how much I can judge it negatively because of the format in which I watched it. But the problems I have with it don't really coincide with the problems in the format in which I watched it. So,
well, if it helps at all, I have this movie on DVD and it looks exactly the same as the link I gave you.
Well, no, what I'm talking about is, like, just because of the streaming thing, like, images would sometimes just stop on screen, but the audio would keep going, and then there'd be, like, pixels that just remained from the previous shot, or someone would, like, wave their arm across screen, and their arm would kind of, like, ghost or whatever.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff like that happen, so, I can only imagine what my opinion would be if I got to see the entire thing in pristine quality. But, oh my god, the blending of CG and 2D animation here looks ridiculously awful. Like, I remember people complained about when they did that with the vehicle chase scene in Under the Red Hood, but that is damn seamless compared to this.
I mean, even the Green Lantern First Flight movie with Sinestro's CGI eyeball, that still looks a little bit better.
Just talking about his power battery, yeah. That's a weird one because, alright, brief tangent, but alright, so like when he's got that thing and it's floating around shooting everything, it's got a black Green Lantern symbol on the front of it.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, but Sinestro has the modern fear symbol on his chest, so it makes no sense.
I like that movie though. It's just really, really generic.
Yeah, Emerald Knights is like a million times better. Despite major plot hole, but whatever. So, no, like, oh my god, the CG in this looks god-awful. Like, it would be fine if it's on its own. Like, they have that opening sequence with the armor being built kind of thing, the Mach 1, which I guess isn't the Mach 1 in this. We'll get to it. They have the Mach 1 armor being built, and, like, that looks really good. So I'm like, oh, it's going to be an all-CG movie. Nope. Oh, so it was just the CG in the credits. Nope. Oh, so they're going to blend them. Well, maybe it'll look good. Nope. Like, Iron Man looks like he's a plastic toy being thrown around whenever he's, like, getting tossed around. And that's another thing. This might just be nitpicky at this point, but the movie's called Invincible Iron Man. And he gets
kicked every damn time.
Right?
He is the lucky Iron Man.
Well, the other thing that gets me is it almost feels like a toy commercial at points, too, because he keeps switching armors.
And none of them had toys.
What the shit?
I wanted a toy that was the lava suit, and we never got it.
Oh my god, there's so much wrong with this movie. Like, I don't know if we're going to be able to get an hour out of it, because I want to keep, like, jumping around with all these problems, but I also want to get an hour out of this episode and just talk about them individually.
Well, just to speak to the animation, Marvel, I think now has shifted to purely CGI, because they do all these weird team-up movies now that I watched a few of, and they're okay.
They're really kid-oriented, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really kid-oriented. They're action over story, but they have the same voice cast as their TV shows in some of the older movies, so they aren't awful. I like the Captain America Iron Man one. That's a lot of fun.
Captain America? I don't think I've seen... Was that the one? Shit, I can't remember if it was Captain America and Iron Man or if it was someone else. They haven't done more than one Captain America one, have they?
I don't think they've done more than one Captain America one. I just remember it was called Heroes United, but I think that's the title of all of them.
Yeah. I saw the Iron Man Hulk one.
Yeah, I remember that one. That movie had like 3 different endings. It was weird as hell.
That one, like, it's weird because they just land in the middle of that. movie, they just land in the middle of a like graveyard thing, and the Hulk is attacked by like some kind of nightmarish wolves. And then it has nothing to do with the rest of the, like, they came out of nowhere, and then they just left, and it had nothing to do with the rest of the story whatsoever.
Yeah, it's really
so strange.
There's the Iron Man Hulk one, and then there's the Iron Man Captain America one, and in that, Roger Craig Smith plays Captain America, and he's pretty great.
Okay.
But yeah, they shifted to just doing CGI, and I don't know what you think of those. The Hulk didn't look great, but the Captain America Iron Man fight from the second movie actually looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, I was happier with the animation quality in that. Like, I didn't mind the character designs in the CG. It wasn't fantastic, but it was also 2007.
Yeah.
Made for DVD release movie, so I'm not expecting it to be fantastic. But if you're going to integrate it with 2D, he gets thrown around and the ground doesn't crack or dust doesn't fly up or anything. It's so awkward.
And, also remember that they had an Iron Man show in the 90s that looked pretty good. I don't know why they felt the need to make this CG. Or at least CG in places.
And what's weird is they try to make it CG, and, I get it. You're working with metal suits and stuff. That's fine. But then they try to make the CG look like the animation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. You failed at both at that point. It's a really, really weird choice.
Well, when you get to the end, when Tony's got his helmet off and he's got the CGI suit, and it looks awful.
Kind of like floating around there, yeah.
It looks so bad.
Yeah, it's a really poor blend. Because, there's no excuse for it not to be good. You had DC working with 2D and 3D animation years ago with Justice League at this point.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for it to look this bad. If this came out in like 98, maybe.
I'm trying to think of other shows and stuff that came out in the early 2000s. Even Batman Beyond had some pretty good CGI integration compared to this.
Yeah. This is just... Yeah, the animation in this is... Like, even the 2D animation, it looks good when it's still, but then some of the facial expressions don't seem to emote much to me.
Well, I think part of the problem is also that the animation is also edited really weirdly, so you'd have someone say a line, and then there's just a pause that's a couple seconds too long before someone responds, and shit like that annoys the hell out of me because it makes the conversations not feel natural.
Yeah, I don't know, just, like, there's a lot of that going on. Just the 2D animation looks okay at best to me, but I don't know, it seems kind of slow. Like, there's that scene with Rhodey and Tony in the alley outside of a Stark building.
Oh, yeah.
And Tony, like, holds up the map, and Rhodey pulls it out of his hand and looks at it. And then, like, it's like they don't know what to have Tony do with his hand, so they just have him, like, brush back his hair and not turn to look at Rhodey at all or anything. It's just really awkward movement and stuff. I'm like, okay, then? You couldn't just have him hand it to him or put down his hand? Or, I don't know, just the whole sequence just looked like they just kind of lost track of the direction they wanted that scene to go.
Kind of gives me flashbacks to Spider-Man the Animated Series. And
how
animated that was. Before we move on from the animation, the other thing I want to mention is how it's colored and how everything just looks so muted and boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the China scenes I can maybe see, but even when we get to the main city, everything has this weird white filter to it where it just doesn't look natural, and it doesn't look like anyone lives in any of the buildings. Or anyone's even on the streets.
The other one that got me is, kind of going back to the CG thing, we have Ultimate Avengers that comes out after this and is apparently connected to it, and we'll get to that, too. And it used a 2D animated Iron Man and looked about 1,000 times better. So is it a different team, or did they just decide, this was a really bad decision?
Probably the latter. I'm not sure off the top of my head, because the retention for a lot of these projects is completely up in the air.
Yeah, I don't know. The animation's probably the worst thing about this movie, but not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I'm refreshed to know that you knew this was bad when you picked it.
Yeah, no, this was not something that I came into thinking that I hope you'd like. No, not at all.
Well, like, what my thinking is probably it was something that you hadn't watched in years, like, just based on your tweet. I thought it might have been something you hadn't watched in years and years.
Oh, no, I haven't watched it in 10 years, but I remember watching it at first and hating it. So, this was infamously bad, so yeah.
Well, good to hear. Someone was talking, Laser Dude, in his review, he holds up the DVD and there's like a 2D animated Iron Man on the back, fighting like a green comic book looking Mandarin. He's like, this doesn't fucking happen in the movie! Oh wait, before we move on from animation, if you're gonna put a naked woman on screen, have her actually be naked. Otherwise, just do, ripped or tattered clothing that's still hanging on for dear life, as opposed to covering her up with a ghost, because that looked really awkward.
It looked bizarre as hell, yeah.
Yeah, I really, really did not like that scene at the end. It was so goddamn distracting. That was all over the place.
Yeah, and also some of the animation for blood was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it was penciled into random cells and not actually animated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like any of the animation in this movie.
I will say, though, because you mentioned this earlier, I do like the character models, and I like the designs for the armors.
Mm-hmm.
I think on a storyboard level, this movie could have worked.
That's a really, really nice thing for you to say.
I don't know how much of a compliment or an insult that actually is, but honestly, the storyboards for this must have been great.
Sure. Like, that's apparently the only time the producers ever looked at the fucking thing.
So, I want to mention just a little bit of history, and you probably know this, most people probably do, but I'll mention it anyway in case someone doesn't. So the original Iron Man movie, the one from 2008, was supposed to have the Mandarin in it.
I did not know this.
Okay, well, the basic premise for that whole movie, the thing that everyone loves about it is that so much of it is improvised, and so much of it is just people talking over each other. The reason for that is because they didn't have a script. That movie has a very basic outline of a plot that would change every single day. The meeting for the Iron Man movie would open with, okay, so what do we shoot today? Not any sort of plan. And Jeff Bridges he wasn't supposed to get an armor, then he got an armor, and then the idea was that he'd be the Mandarin, and then he's not the Mandarin, and the Mandarin was supposed to be in the movie, and then he's not in the movie. The Mandarin being in that movie was part of the plan for so long that there was a mini-series from Marvel called Enter the Mandarin that recapped their origin, that came out by, I think, Joe Casey, and this movie. So this movie and that comic were supposed to set up an Iron Man film with the Mandarin in it, and it never happened.
And then Iron Man 3 came around, and everyone got pissed off.
Yeah, and that's irritating as well, because people want to lob the criticism of that movie if that's not the Mandarin, but if you read the comics, there is no consistent Mandarin. He's different every time. This Mandarin for this movie has nothing to do with any Mandarin from the comics at all.
Yeah, and I don't know, I don't really care about what they did with Mandarin in Iron Man 3. It's fine, it works for the thematic role they were trying to do. I just was really hoping that they'd, have Tony Stark. Like, it gets weird because there's kind of a plot thread in that movie of Tony Stark dealing with trying to understand from a scientific point of view all these seemingly impossible things, and it would have been really interesting to cap that off with a mystical-ish villain, and then that just didn't really happen.
Well, the interesting thing about Iron Man comics is that it's magic versus science, and it's one of the only things where science always wins.
Yeah,
and you never use that anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, because traditionally the rule is in magic versus science, magic wins.
Or you redefine science to just be magic.
Yeah. So, I don't know, I was really hoping that that's what they were going to do when they announced Mandarin as the villain, and, it would have worked with Asgardian technology or something like that. But but I don't know what they did with it's fine. I was disappointed in what they did with Mandarin because it was, you know, not what would have been, in my opinion, interesting. It also means Tony Stark hates people with Tony Stark hates amputees. Tony Stark does not care about the paraplegic. There we go. That'll always be my argument against Iron Man 3, and there's nothing you can say about it, Steve.
Well, Tony was supposed to be an asshole, so I don't think that's a problem. But anyway, so yeah, the Mandarin was supposed to be in the Iron Man movie, and he wasn't. There's a whole bunch of stuff where the whole point of these animation projects were to just, like, create buzz for a character before their movies came out. Mm-hmm. And there was a Thor origin movie that came out, when was that? In 2011, called Tales of Asgard. And that
yeah, with, like, it's him and Loki as, like, kids, isn't it?
Yeah, and that movie's surprisingly not bad.
Oh, no, I really like that one, actually.
Yeah, I do, too. I think that movie's a lot of fun, and it's surprisingly interesting. But there were supposed to be more of those. Like, there was supposed to be a Captain America one, and they did a Doctor Strange one, but the production of Iron Man was so haphazard that the Phase 1 of Marvel didn't actually have a plan.
Yeah, and you can tell.
Yeah, by the time you get to Avengers, you know they were just kind of winging it until they got to that movie. They have their entire slate planned out until the very end before you even see the first movie is a new phenomenon for them.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I really like the Doctor Strange one.
I don't like that one very much.
I like it until the villain stuff starts to go on. Like, I kind of would have just been happy with it if it ended once he, like, kind of completed his training stuff. Like, I really like all the origin stuff for him, and then it's when the villain gets involved that I kind of break down on it, but I like the origin stuff enough that it gets me through it.
That's fair. Part of it is that most people don't know Doctor Strange's origin, so it's always fun to see it represented somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I like Next Avengers.
That's the one with the kids, right?
Yeah. I used to hate that movie, but I kind of like it now.
No, fuck that movie. Like, my joke for that movie is, well, in the last two animated Avengers films, the Avengers acted like children, so why don't we just make the Avengers literal children?
That's why I like it. Because that's exactly what it is.
Like, that's the thing, is, like, they're such fucking children in the other two Avengers movies. And then that one's just like, fuck it, let's just make them kids. And I'm like, okay, and fuck it, I'm not gonna watch your fucking movie now.
Do you like Planet Hulk or no?
No, I don't like Talking Hulk. I think that is entirely a taste thing. Like, people tell me the comic's better, I don't care. I just don't like the concept. I do not care for Talking Hulk.
I like the comic a lot. I don't like the rest of Greg Pak's run, but I like the comic a lot, and the movie is just okay. But it has the same problems we could talk about with this, where it's animated really poorly, and the whole thing is very dull.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember watching Planet Hulk and was just like, you know, I'm not okay with the Hulk talking and reasoning, because at that point, it doesn't work for me anymore. And I get, you know, people in the comments are always going to be like, oh, well, Hulk talks all the time in the comics. Yeah, I know. I just don't care for it. And I'm not a Hulk fan. They don't have to try to please me. But there's what I care for, and there's what I care for.
No, that's totally fair. I don't know if Marvel intended to go more of an adaptation route with their films, but I feel like that ultimately would have saved them. Like, if they just made a straight-up Iron Man Extremis adaptation, or a not only Planet Hulk movie, but also like a Winter Soldier animated movie, stuff like that.
I'm trying to think, have there been any of the DC animateds that are just good originals that aren't adaptations?
Just good originals. Superman vs. the Elite, I love. Oh, wait, that's an adaptation, never mind.
And Crisis on Two Earths is fantastic.
And that's an adaptation.
No, it's not.
It's based on the Earth 2 graphic novel.
Was it? Wow, shit! I thought that was completely original.
It changes a lot, but it is based on that story, and it does get credited at the end.
Okay. Shit.
Justly do well. That's Tower of Babel.
Yeah, and they change a lot. But yeah.
Unbound's bad, but that's also an adaptation. Gods and Monsters.
Okay, well there you go.
Gods and Monsters. I'm looking at their entire list right now just because I don't remember all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Doomsday: New Frontier. Gotham Knights, not an adaptation, but it's awful. Wonder Woman's not an adaptation, and I don't like it.
Oh, really?
That movie's weird for me. That movie, I like it sometimes, I hate it other times. It's just a mood thing, I guess.
Okay, no, I really like that one.
I'll have to watch it again. It's been like 5-10 years. But, Green Lantern...
God, we're old.
We are old, damn it. I remember when all of these first came out on DVD. Anyway, Green Lantern First Flight's not an adaptation, but I like it.
It's an adaptation of the origin, though.
I don't know if that counts. Public Enemies I hate and is an adaptation. Crisis on Two Worlds, Red Hood, Apocalypse is an adaptation. All-Star. Emerald Knights is not an adaptation, right?
No, it is and it isn't. It's adapting a bunch of the famous Green Lantern stories, so you might as well.
Okay, so it basically is. Year One it is, Dooms it is, The Elite, Dark Knight Returns, Unbound, Flashpoint, War, Son of Batman is not an No, yes it is. It's Batman and Son. Barely. Assault on Arkham is not an adaptation.
Oh, well, yippee.
Dawn of Atlantis, Batman vs. Wow, so many of these are adaptations.
Right?
Realize.
Yeah, and like I say, you know, some of them are better than others, clearly, and some of them do suffer greatly from trying to be condensed so much, but by and large, they're better than all the Marvel ones.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd watch any one of these over the other Marvel ones, honestly.
Yeah, like, is there any of the Marvel ones you would rather watch compared to?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I might watch Next Avengers before I watch any of the New 52 ones, but that's really bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like
I'd
losing
probably
a hand versus losing a foot, you know?
Yeah, I'd probably just go outside instead. And I hate going outside. There's stuff out there.
Exactly. The pixels aren't even fully rendered. It's awful.
What the fuck does that even mean? Shit. Okay. Steve, I think you need to go outside more. But I just established that's awful. Okay. No, but getting back to the movie itself, yeah, just the story is really lame. Let's kind of get more into the general story. Okay, so I think my biggest problem with this is that the Mach 1 Iron Man armor is technically the absolute last Iron Man armor he made.
Yeah.
That is real. Like, why would you do Tony Stark's origin if he's already built a haul of armor? I do not understand that.
It brings in a pretty massive plot hole in that the armors are only there because Tony needed them to live at first. And in this movie's canon, if there was ever a sequel, if he doesn't distribute those armors and give them out to people and help paraplegics and stuff, he's an asshole. And the comics have that to a degree, but they've always fixed it or remedied it simply by saying that he does hand them out, but so much of it can only work if you don't have an arc reactor.
Well, like, that's my thing for Iron Man 3 is, like, it's so weird that they make, you know, the vice president's paraplegic niece or daughter or whatever.
I think it's his daughter.
A major plot point in the movie, and then in the second Iron Man movie they establish that Tony Stark himself establishes that the armor is a highly advanced prosthetic. So, like, that's just, when you really think about it, he is an asshole to the paraplegic. That's
just another comic book thing as general, though. Like, you'd also think about, like, the suits the Fantastic Four wear. Why aren't they giving them to firefighters?
Because they need them more. Like, it is one of those things for, like, Grant Morrison to do in Seven Soldiers of Victory kind of thing, isn't it? Like, I think there's more of that in the Marvel universe than there is in the DC universe, because it just seems like the crazy technology is just more prevalent in the consumer side of the DC universe than it is in Marvel for some reason. Even though Marvel, just on the whole, seems to be about 10 to 15 years ahead of DC. technologically speaking. But no, it seems like someone like Grant Morrison just needs to come in and deal with the day-to-day monotony of living in a superhero society.
Yeah. But I guess to get back to I think it's a bigger problem in this movie, because in the comics, it's just a afterthought kind of thing of, hey, you could probably use this for this other purpose. In the movie, this was intended to be marketed and sold, and I'm not going to now. Because reasons.
It's really fucking weird to do the origin retroactively to him being Iron Man. And then on top of that, I have no idea how S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't know he's Iron Man, considering that this is technically connected to the Ultimate Avengers movie.
Is it connected?
Yeah, like I talked to Bill today to ask him if he wanted to join, and he can't because he's recording his own podcast today. But he talked about, because apparently this was his favorite movie at one point in time, he talked about watching some of the DVD features on either this or Ultimate Avengers, and they were talking about Invincible Iron Man, and they go, you don't have to see Invincible Iron Man to watch Ultimate Avengers, but you should, because we're really, really careful in connecting them. And that's just a lie.
It is. There is nothing between those two movies at all. They share a voice actor.
Yeah, like there's no way this is the same Tony Stark, because how does S.H.I.E.L.D. not know he's Iron Man at this point, right?
No, totally. It's ridiculous.
Like, they see him blast off of this fucking building in an Iron Man costume, and they like know he's somewhere in the building.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely ridiculous. There's no way those two things are connected.
Yeah, and my other question is, S.H.I.E.L.D. is really fucking dumb in this, because, like, okay, I can understand maybe being tricked by Pepper Potts and, like, going to the lobby the one time, but then why is she still working in that building? After she helps Tony Stark sneak in one time, why would they let her keep working there?
I have no idea. It's really annoying. Everyone in this movie is incompetent, including Tony Stark. That's kind of the issue with it. Like, by the end, the Mandarin just kind of defeats himself because of the girl.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like a Temple of Doom problem where, regardless of Tony Stark, the movie would have pretty much unfolded the same way. It would have gone better without Tony Stark.
It's weird. I think the one that bugs the crap out of me the most is I could almost see this being a better movie if they decided to sacrifice what's her name, Meng Li or whatever.
Yeah,
if they'd actually sacrificed her. The way in which Tony defeats Mandarin by going, "Oh, I know you're really in there," it's really stupid, and, like, I was gonna give the movie a lot of props. I did not call that she was gonna end up being the Mandarin. I was impressed by that twist.
Which I will say, I was like, that's an Iron Man comic thing where every time he meets a girl, it always seems to be that she is connected to the villain.
Okay. Fair enough, but no, I really did not see that twist of she is the Mandarin, or she has to become the Mandarin kind of thing. Yeah. I did not see that twist coming, and I was really impressed by it, and I really thought that he was going to have to kill her, and if they'd done that, if the only way to defeat the Mandarin was by killing her, I would have been much, much happier with this movie. It would still have shit ton of issues, but I would be more impressed with it for having the balls to do that.
See, and speaking of lost potential, let me just set the scene here of the idea of a Western capitalist for political and economic gain helps out a Chinese company, and the quote-unquote terrorist group that was responsible for hurting Tony Stark and making him Iron Man are actually the ones with the more reasonable ideology. And you have an entire East versus West thing and how they perceive the Mandarin versus how corporate interest perceives the Mandarin that you could have used to build an Iron Man origin off of, and they do nothing with it.
It's almost as if they didn't realize what story they were telling.
And you could have had a genius movie. You really could have made this into something really damn good.
Yeah, the one thing I will say that I like the most, and it is such a superficial, stupid thing, but I legitimately enjoyed this, and I think Alex would agree with me on this. I really like that Tony Stark fights a dragon.
Yes.
That Iron Man fights a dragon in the armor and everything. That's good.
I like that a lot, too. That's fun.
Yeah, that's really... I'm really happy with that. I doubt that we'll ever properly get that in, the Marvel movies, but if we do, I'd be really, really happy. Because, I mean, he's wearing a suit of armor. You gotta do it. How can you not have a guy in a suit of armor fight a dragon?
See, that's what I like about Iron Man 3, just symbolically, of it's a knight in armor versus a dragon.
Yeah, but I want it, your symbolism can go eat a dick. I need my flashy effects on screen, goddammit.
I mean, I would love to see Iron Man fight a literal dragon in the movies, but I do like that it's symbolically there with the Mandarin. But anyway...
Yeah, I agree, but I want the other thing.
There's a story arc called was this Hands? No, it's not Hands of the Mandarin. It's the Dragon Seed Saga. There we go. It's the John Byrne one where it's the introduction of Fin Fang Foom and all of his dragon buddies, and that story literally ends with an army of dragons being wiped out when Iron Man commandeers Mandarin's hands and shoots lasers at everything.
That's cool.
And then the ending of that story is all the dragons are dead and the Mandarin has lost his hands.
That's cool. I'm okay with this.
It's kind of, and it's drawn by John Byrne, so it looks fantastic.
I don't know, like one of my favorite things of the Avengers is one of the Avengers cartoon that everyone loves, but I hate the animation.
Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Yeah, okay, that one. One of my favorite things about that was when Tony Stark makes armor out of, Asgardian metal. That was really fucking cool.
I like that a lot, too. I think that's in the comics.
If it's not, it should be.
If it is, it's probably an Avengers-centric thing, because I don't remember it in the main Iron Man stuff I read.
Fair enough. Okay, I know I always complain about all the animation of Earth's Mightiest Heroes, but I can't decide what I hate more, of Captain America's star on his chest or just everything about Thor's character design. So I just want to throw those two thoughts out there. I don't know which I hate more, but it's definitely one of them.
I would go with the Captain America because it reminds me too much of the Rob Liefeld Captain America, where he's just got a massive chest. Mm-hmm. And it looks weird. I don't know. I like that show a lot. I think the voice actor for Captain America in that show is perfect. So I never minded the animation.
It's like if you watch that show on mute.
But you don't watch it on mute. That's the thing. It's a show that you need the dialogue for.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, like, if you watched it on mute, you probably wouldn't have... Like, you couldn't just sit there and watch it for the animation, is my point.
No, that's...
You never do that.
That's
same with
fair.
Spider-Man.
I don't know. I feel like the story for that show, it doesn't matter if the animation sucks.
It always matters, because you need the animation to match the quality of what you're working with.
Well, in that case, I think it works in the sense that it looks really cheesy, and the show is really cheesy. It feels very Jack Kirby.
Nah, I still disagree.
Well, I guess that's a different discussion, but...
Yeah, I don't know, what is it with Marvel? Because, yeah, we talked about all their movies now, and none of the plots are particularly good at all. And all the animation is, just okay at best. So
yeah, I don't think Marvel's ever made an animated project that looked good.
Yeah, where's all the money for these projects going? You know?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. The second season of Iron Man looks better than the first, but it still doesn't look like good animation.
The Hulk show
that was awful.
Yeah.
There was an Avengers cartoon before Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Called, it was United something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but none of the classic Avengers were there. They only had like sporadic cameos.
Weird.
I forget what it was called. But that had some of the worst animation I've ever seen.
Yeah, Spider-Man animated series was terrible as far as animation. I still enjoyed some of the stories.
I like the stories of that show as well, but yeah, the animation sucks. I love Spectacular Spider-Man. I don't like the character designs at all.
They look like it's this fucking doll eyes.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking god, I hate that. Ultimate Spider-Man, the character animation's better, but the backgrounds just look like Photoshop pictures with filters put on them.
Iron Man Armored Adventures, I like things about, but the animation sucks.
Yeah, where's all the budget going for this shit? Like, who are they hiring as writers? Are they just hiring comic book writers? Or like, how much are they paying these people?
They're hiring regular animation veterans and comic book writers. Like Boyd Kirkland from most of DC's projects does a lot of the Marvel stuff for writing, and what's his name? Christopher Yost does a lot of the writing for these.
Wow.
And then the director for a lot of the animated movies over at DC directs the Marvel ones as well.
That's strange.
What's his name? Sam Liu. He does those. Jay Olivia does some of those.
I just really don't know where their budget's going for these things.
Yeah, I'm not...
Because, I mean, I figure if you have such poor work being put into some of the storytelling, that you could at least put it into making the animation look good.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. And I don't know, like, what the work environment for these movies really is. Like, are they made as just glorified commercials? Do they do bare minimum costs and just put them out because they want to put them out? Or
have you seen either of the two anime Marvel movies that came out? It was like
I saw the Iron Man one, The Rise of Technovore, and I saw the Punisher Black Widow,
Dark Avengers, or whatever they call it.
Yeah, I don't remember what that one was, but I didn't like either of them.
I couldn't get past the first 15 minutes of the Iron Man one. It just
boring as fuck.
Yeah, I tried 2 times and I was falling asleep within 15 minutes.
It is boring as fuck.
I shouldn't be falling asleep when fucking Rhodey just died in the first 10 minutes of your fucking movie, but I did.
And the sad part is that one's at least more interesting than the Iron Man anime.
Oh my god.
They're so boring. All of them are boring.
Yeah. And then the Black Widow Punisher one, I mean...
Avengers Confidential, that's what it was called.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I like the idea of Punisher being brought in to work with the Avengers as like a Black Ops thing. That's kind of neat, but yeah, it still doesn't work. And then when the proper Avengers show up, it gets really awkward, because at that point, why do you even need him?
And then, to go with our criticism, the popular criticism of the Marvel animes in general is you saw the test footage for the Wolverine one and the Iron Man one, and they looked amazing, and then you watch the actual shows, and they look terrible.
And didn't the Wolverine one, didn't they give him like 4 claws for some odd reason?
They didn't give him 4 claws, they made the claws come out in a weird angle, so it looks like he's just holding knives.
That's strange. I could have sworn I saw like an anime Wolverine where he has like 4 claws instead.
Well, he's really tall and skinny and kind of got like weird 80s look to him. Like he doesn't look like Wolverine at all.
What the hell?
Yeah, all of the Marvel anime, the animation is not very good, and I would even say like Rise of Technovore is the highlight of the animation for those movies and those shows.
God, that movie's so... Yeah, it's fucking boring as shit. I'm glad to know that it doesn't get better, so I don't feel bad about turning it off.
I haven't seen the Blade one, though. That's the only Marvel anime project I haven't looked into, and that should be good, because it's made by Madhouse, and Blade's a vampire thing. Their whole company is built on making good vampire anime. So if that one sucks, they fail. They fail at everything.
Well, good to know.
So no, you bring up a really good question, because they don't hire great voice actors. They use everyone from the recycled animation industry, and none of it looks good. So where is the money going?
Marketing?
But they don't market them. Like, if you just walked over to someone on the street and you asked them about the Planet Hulk animated movie or Next Avengers, would they know what you're talking about?
Probably not.
But if you ask them about Batman Under the Red Hood, they probably will.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
I don't know, man. It's all over the place, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, DC has some pretty bad misses with their animated movies, but they're a lot more entertaining than these.
And the animation has never looked just god-awful.
They don't. And just for my thing, the coloring is a lot brighter than this.
Yeah. It almost has like that anime thing where they'll just kind of use the same background, and so like everything's in perfect focus for some odd reason. And it's kind of hard to describe and just.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you mean.
Speaking. Like if you watch some animes, you'll notice that the background's in just as much focus as the characters.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't happen if you were just drawing it all as one thing. But what they do is they draw the background and they draw the characters. And just overlay them in post, basically.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. This movie does a weird thing though, where they shift in and out of focus on certain angles, and it just doesn't look right. I was so bored watching it, I was actually paying attention to focus. It was weird.
It's never a good sign, right?
So the next place I want to take this, if unless you've got something else, is just talking about Iron Man in this and comics versus Robert Downey Jr. Because if this was meant to gear people up for that movie, it failed completely. And
it like you telling me that Iron Man had no script kind of helps explain why that might be.
Yeah.
Because if it did, it might have become this, and there go bye your Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, because if they released this in live action, no one would have watched any of the subsequent films.
Yeah. I know you're not the biggest Incredible Hulk fan, but even if that had still come out, no one would have watched, because that movie didn't do as well as Iron Man did.
And I think, and I guess maybe this explains, I never thought of it that way, but considering Iron Man didn't have a script, I think that explains more of my issue of just Marvel Cinematic Universe Iron Man is Robert Downey Jr., because they never wrote Tony Stark.
Well, my thing is, I've never really cared about Iron Man before Iron Man, and like I'm still not a big fan of him or anything like that. I don't want to sound like that Robert Downey Jr. made me an Iron Man fan.
That's fair,
but that's how a lot of people were with them. Like I am part of a very wide majority.
Yeah.
I remember we used to have Alec on the show a lot, and you know, Alec, if you're listening, we miss you, man. But he made the point one time that he watched an episode of the Iron Man cartoon when he was a kid, and he thought it was a robot, because that's how just little personality Iron Man had in the public eye. And then Robert Downey Jr. comes on, and he does play himself, a heightened version of himself and a very exaggerated version of himself, but he is playing himself in that movie, and it has affected the character in such a profound way, and you know, you can back me up on this, that the writers are just writing Robert Downey Jr. now, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you listen to the directors, like Joss Whedon talks about this all the time, he doesn't really write Tony Stark dialogue. He does the story stuff, and he does like the exposition, but the jokes and the personality is all just Robert Downey Jr. Improving in the movie.
Oh my God!
Like you really can't write that character in the movies. You can give him stories to work around, and the rest is just Downey.
Yeah, and like that's the thing is, everyone's just he has become that character now,
and that's why it doesn't work in the comics, because you can't plan a Robert Downey Jr. performance ahead of time in a script. It comes from it being so spontaneous.
Certainly, but it's interesting to see how profoundly it's affected the character, and now that's the new voice for him. So things are, you know, they're trying to find a balance between that and the classic Iron Man character.
Well, it's a little more complicated, because after Robert Downey Jr. got popular in the comics, they tried to do that really aggressively. Like they would recycle the jokes, they'd give him the same core characters. Like, for people that don't know, in the comics, Pepper Potts is not a thing. She shows up sometimes, but her husband is Happy Hogan, and she's barely in the comic for like 20 years. She's almost nothing for decades and decades, and then they get rid of that marriage, and they make her young and attractive because of the movies.
Yep.
And then that just became the status quo for a while. They would still have business-centric 80s Tony Stark. He would just have the movie cast, and then they would try to throw in lines of Robert Downey Jr., and it didn't really work. No one really liked it. For the Avengers books, when there was a big ensemble cast, they would just make him really snarky, and no one liked him. And so now what they've done, basically, in the little of the Bendis Iron Man comic I've read, and the stuff before that with Karen Gillan's run, is that They've made Iron Man more of a playboy, and they've kept his old personality. Because that's the other thing in the comics, is that Iron Man's not really a playboy. Like, he has steady girlfriends that he keeps for a while, and when he goes through a breakup, it affects the book for years. The whole opening of the not the Kaminsky, but the Leighton and Michelini run is Tony Stark's girlfriend ditches him, and he has a mental breakdown because he doesn't have anyone to talk to him anymore. So he's not really a playboy. Rhodey is. Rhodey's the playboy that they eventually turn serious.
Interesting.
And it's only because Tony looks really attractive that he gets multiple women, but that's not his personality. And so now the new balance has just been, let's make him really flirty and jokey, but keep the really dark, almost Marvel's version of Batman there.
Okay.
Because, like I said, if you don't have Robert Downey Jr., the personality doesn't land in a book the same way. Like, that's the problem with Whedon's writing in a comic book. If you read the Buffy comics, Joss Whedon's got good scripts, but without an actor to convey those jokes, it just doesn't work.
See, that's disappointing, because I've been considering picking up some of Whedon's work when he's on comics.
Well, I mean, I'm talking more about, like, the TV shows that were adapted. Like, the X-Men run he did, I like a lot.
Okay.
I'm not sure what else he wrote. He did The Runaways, which was okay, but Brian K. Vaughan, you really can't beat on that book.
Okay. I don't see. That's interesting, because I think Robert Downey Jr. just really gave life to that character in the public eye, and I agree. It is really hard to translate that performance down to the written level, but it's disappointing to see that they're not running with trying to find more of a balance between those two things.
It's difficult because the movies go in such a different direction. Like, the first movie, if not the first movie, the second movie opens with him giving away his company. And so much of Tony Stark's stories are based in the company. Obadiah Stane is nothing like he is in the comics. Justin Hammer is nothing like he is in the comics. The comic setup is just so different than the movies that even if you try to strike a balance, it still doesn't work because the rest of the universe doesn't conform to it.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you just want to reboot Iron Man from the ground up, which you really can't do considering how much of the canon matters to him, then you can't really get Downey. Which is why no one reads Iron Man.
It's disappointing because I don't understand why they didn't translate more of the stuff from the comics into Downey. Because, like, you know, we really do need a heroic character that struggles with alcoholism. Yeah, and we get a little bit of that in Iron Man 2, but not enough. We really need characters with real flaws to be explored on screen. And like I said, we get a little bit of that alcohol abuse, but I'm pretty sure we see him drink. And, you know, I can't think of a specific scene off the top of my head. No, of course I can. When he gets a drink as he goes to talk to Loki in Avengers. So we see him drink after that in Iron Man 2.
We see it in Iron Man 3 and Age of Ultron as well.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of a specific scene, and nothing was coming to mind right away.
Yeah.
So, like, it just would have been interesting to have him deal with, like, proper alcoholism in the films, and I don't think we're going to get that now, and that's disappointing.
Downey keeps saying he really wants to do that story.
I think it's too late for him, because I think the character's gone beyond that at this point.
He has, and the other thing is that his personality doesn't fit the alcoholism personality. So if you adapt the story, you're doing inherently a very different thing.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. Iron Man, I don't know what the hell they're going to do when they have to recast Downey.
I have
no idea.
My thing was always, before Ben Affleck got cast as Batman, is if Downey leaves, just cast Ben Affleck and do comic book Iron Man. And now no one can do that because he's Batman. But if it happens, then he will have played all three of my favorite comic book characters.
That's funny. Okay. Well, I guess that'll work. I don't know. I just don't know what the hell they're gonna do when Robert Downey Jr. leaves. Like, the reason that he kind of sped up why he's leaving was because he got injured on the set of Iron Man 3. Yeah. And I just don't understand why that was a thing that happened. Because, like, you know, Shane Black obviously did his thing to show that Tony Stark is Iron Man in or out of the armor.
Yeah.
but I'm like, okay, so you're never going to do that story again now. You can just have him in the armor all the time. I don't think that that Robert Downey Jr. needs to play Iron Man in the suit. Like, you can have a stunt double do those scenes.
You can, and the CGI and stuff's gotten so good for those movies that all you really need to do is just take some shots of Downey in a green suit and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't, you'd still have to have him wear the motion capture suit around a little bit, but that isn't as big a problem anymore as motion capture technology is getting better and better to where you don't even really need the suits anymore because, I have a Kinect and I can do motion capture.
And then just also thinking of the fact that if you count Civil War, we have 6 movies of Iron Man material. We know how to do that now. Like, it's not the impossible challenge it would have been back in 2008.
Yeah, I don't understand why he can't just continue to play the character and just not do all the physical stuff. Like, it's movie making. We kind of figured out stunt doubles a long time ago.
And I mean, I would go the early 2000s route and just make him director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then you can do the alcoholism thing because you can use the S.H.I.E.L.D. organization as a substitute for the business stuff.
I just don't know if I could buy the character doing that.
Well, considering where S.H.I.E.L.D. is at the end of Age of Ultron, I think you can. Because it's a completely different thing.
Maybe, because, he does have that whole thing about how I've successfully privatized world peace.
Yeah, and his philosophy changes completely by the end of Iron Man 3 and Age of Ultron, and then based on what happens at the end of Civil War and the new nature of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the end of that movie, I could see him taking over for that.
Yeah,
especially if this thing with Captain America gets more violent, like if someone actually dies and he feels responsible.
Gotcha.
Like, I don't think that would be a stretch.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Okay, so say they do recast him, though.
Yeah.
What direction would you want them to go in? Would you like them to go for a more comic book thing, or do you think that would be too consistent for that universe at this point?
If I was Marvel, I would not. It'd be really tough because you can't just hire an actor to play Robert Downey Jr. Like that. That's impossible.
No, what are you talking about? They did that with his dad in the Captain America movie.
Well, yeah, if they didn't hire that guy for Howard, he would have been a perfect replacement. Oh. What the fucking hell? Anyway.
Well, it's so weird because that performance doesn't line up with the Howard Stark in Iron Man 2 at all.
It doesn't, but he's great and I don't care. He's hilarious. He's got a pink flamingo in Agent Carter because why not?
Okay, sorry.
Okay, but so I think even the general audience understands that at this point, where if Robert Downey Jr. leaves and it's going to be a different type of Iron Man, if you wanted to go more of that silly route, though, I think Colin Farrell would be a good choice.
Ooh.
And if you wanted to do more comic booky stuff, that actor would still work. Can
he do an American accent?
Yeah, he was Bullseye, wasn't he? No, not Bullseye. What's that movie? Damn it. He does another movie that's done Seven Psychopaths. He does an American accent in that.
Okay, I haven't seen that. I was about to say, yeah, he was Bullseye.
He was Bullseye. He did an accent.
Definitely not an American accent, Steve.
Yeah, in Seven Psychopaths, I think he does that. He does an American accent in True Detective.
Okay. I just didn't know if he can do American.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's not a hard accent or anything. I was just curious.
No, it's not that difficult. I don't know how old he is though.
Yeah, I mean, you might just be trading out one problem to have the exact same problem in a couple more years.
According to Wiki, he's 39, so no, that'd be fine.
Okay.
That would give him at least 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy, because the guy that played Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2, he was in the running for Iron Man for a while as well.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell.
And it's funny because he kind of like plays the lame version of Tony Stark in that movie.
They have such a bad habit of this too. Like Guy Pearce could have been a good choice for Iron Man, but he's in Iron Man 3. I could see Matt Boomer doing it. I could see him doing both comic book and Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, I really like that because, yeah, okay, I can dig that.
Yeah, I could totally see. And he's really young.
I just don't know how you get there, and then there'd be the problem of, wait, is this an Iron Man movie or am I watching a Superman movie right now? I can't tell.
Oh, he was Superman in Superman Unbound, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, I just mean that he and Henry Cavill, like, Matt Boomer looks like Henry Cavill's, like, skinnier cousin.
He does. It's surprising that they aren't related.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know, I could really dig Matt Boomer, though. It's just the question, like, if you go that young, then you have to explain why he looks so different. Because, like, they do that in Iron Man 2, where it's like, hey, did you get something done? And he's like, hey, just move, I'm here. Now let's move on.
I like that.
You cannot just do that. You have to give some kind of explanation at that point.
I don't feel committed to that, but just given the way the movies would swing about, like, Downey's contracted for a third Avengers movie, so that's probably going to be Infinity War. If you do something where reality breaks and then gets back into existence, like in Infinity Gauntlet, then I think it'd be fine.
Okay, I could see that.
And just have, like, the next phase be, okay, here's our new looking Iron Man guy after the universe got rebuilt.
Yeah, or it'd be really funny if they just give him plastic surgery.
Yeah, just extend the ending of Iron Man 3.
Yeah, you go reshoot the scene with a screwdriver, and it's just Matt.
I could see it. What's his name? I could see Armie Hammer doing Iron Man.
See, when you say that, all I think is the dude from Full Metal Jacket.
The guy that played the Lone Ranger.
Oh, okay, yeah. I haven't seen enough of his stuff, but yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where, like, I'm not sure what they're gonna do, and like they've been saying for years, oh, we'll just recast like a James Bond thing. Like, yeah, that's easier said than done, guys.
And they said that back when Downey wasn't as big as he is now.
Right.
So they haven't thought about it since.
Yeah. I think they're just really hoping that he won't leave, but after that injury, I think he's like, I really don't want to, because this character kind of revived my career, but yeah. I don't think I can stick around, guys.
Well, I don't know, just given that list of those 2-3 actors we mentioned, I feel like they don't actually have a problem of getting another choice. It's just a matter of how do you sell them on Downey leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Matt Boomer could be absolutely perfect. It's just a matter of, like, will the public accept it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's just it's a question that's always kind of floating around the back of my head because you have a character, you have an actor that brought that character into the public conscious, and then you're just going to try to replace him, and that'll be really strange to see.
If Ant-Man gets bigger, then they might have the same problem with Paul Rudd.
Yeah. I don't know, there's kind of like a legacy thing with Ant-Man built in already.
Sure, you could just get another character.
Yeah, even if it's not a comic character or whatever. That's open enough that, like, when you have a movie with two different guys calling themselves Ant-Man, one older, one younger, you can hand over the suit anytime.
Yeah, I'm sure you can get someone else then. Well, they were really smart in not selling their movies on actors after Downey.
Yeah, especially since Chris Evans was kind of on the fence for a long time there.
Yeah, I mean, he's steady again, and he wants to keep doing it, but they also got the built-in fail-safe of Bucky.
And Sam Wilson. I really want to just hopscotch over Bucky and go to Sam Wilson with how good this fucking Captain America book is right now.
Oh, but Bucky Cap got me into comics, so I just want that. I want Bucky Cap. And I want him to be in the movies called Bucky Cap.
No, I want Sam Cap, and I want them to just adapt the current story right now especially since we're recording this on Saturday night, everybody, and Trump just won South Carolina. So I just want them to adapt the current story arc where Trump is basically the villain.
That would be kind of awesome.
Can we just have that on film where Sam Wilson is Cap Wolf and Trump is the bad guy?
I'd be okay with just having Captain America movies, and then the spin-off is Winter Soldier and Falcon, just hanging out, like in the comics with Brubaker. They just do shit together, because why not?
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to the Invincible Iron Man movie here and wrap up.
Sure.
Because that was inevitable that we would talk about Robert Downey Jr. I don't think it's possible anymore to talk about Iron Man and not talk about Robert Downey Jr.
Well, I mean, especially considering how long after the fact we're reviewing this movie, and if someone wants to just check it out and they don't know when it came out, then they might not realize that this is before Downey was a thing.
Yeah. It's just a crazy thing to look at. Like, this is kind of a bland-ass movie, and yet you would not expect that just a year later this character would explode.
Yeah.
I watched 2 reviews for this, and one of them, a guy was like, you know who this movie was made for? People who really like Iron Man comics. And then I watched the other review, and the guy's like, this doesn't follow the comics at all.
No, as a guy that loves the comics, this is not made for us. Not at all.
Yeah, so like it's just I don't know where this movie who this movie was intended for, because it's not for a general audience, because you really I have no if this was the first Iron Man thing I'd ever seen, I'd have no interest in Iron Man after that. And it's not made for comic book fans because, as you said, it's got nothing to do with the comic books whatsoever, and it doesn't adapt anything properly anyway, so it's just a jumbled mess. So what you have is just like a bastard child that no one wants.
That's exactly what that is. That's hilarious.
Oh my god, that's a really fucked up metaphor.
It's kind of sad. And then you factor in Iron Man 3 where dads leave. Don't be a pussy about it.
Okay, hold on a second. I've got to tweet that. And then I'm going to put this tweet up on screen for y'all.
I guess before we get to scores or anything else, I want to mention, because I mentioned the book earlier, but this movie and Enter the Mandarin came out together as a tie-in to the movie, which eventually didn't have Mandarin. But if you want an intro to Iron Man that's a little bit more fun and downy and zany and crazy, and you want to see Iron Man beat the crap out of a dragon, then read Enter the Mandarin, because it's really, really good.
So it's a comic then?
Yeah, it's a 4-issue mini by Joe Casey.
Okay, you know what? Before we do scores, let's get back off the movie and back to MCU stuff real quick. Okay. So you were defending. You love Iron Man 3. I have complicated feelings on it, and I've only seen the movie one time. So, do you feel like what was the name of the short that came out?
All Hail the King.
Yeah. Do you feel like that was kind of a cop-out based on the reaction to the Mandarin ending?
That's exactly what it was.
Okay.
I don't inherently mind it because the Mandarin has that in the comics so much, where it's like sometimes it's just a different dude, and sometimes it's just a completely different thing that ignores what happened in the past, and so it ultimately doesn't matter, but I felt like Iron Man 3 was doing so much with the idea of the Mandarin that to just cop out by the end is irritating.
Yeah. Like, that's what bothered me, too, is, like, everyone was defending it, and it's like, oh, well, there's no consistent Mandarin, blah, blah, blah. And then they do that, and I'm like, yeah, guys, they did that just because of all the complaints.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to kind of dismiss that argument now, based on the fact that they totally copped out.
Yeah, it's a cop-out. It's cheating the artist out of what they tried to do, and I hate that. And no one talks about those shorts, so I just try to assume they're not canon, because that bugs the hell out of me.
Yeah, but if that's not the case, then how does the ending of The Incredible Hulk make any sense?
I don't know, and I don't care, because All Hail the King doesn't matter.
All Hail the King and the Consultant are two of the just most backflipping fan servicey things I've ever seen.
And they're both reactionary because the studio didn't know what to do.
Yep.
It's annoying.
Yep. Okay.
But again, just Enter the Mandarin it's a good primer for anyone that wants to read more Iron Man as well. So I definitely recommend checking that out over anything like this.
Okay. Yeah, this just is. I'm gonna be surprised if you can't find it at a discount bin. If you do, don't
too much
bother.
for it.
Yeah. If you are walking home and you find this on the street and you don't have to bend over too far to pick it up, then go ahead. Like if someone throws it at you and you just so happen to accidentally catch it without any effort, then go ahead. But you also have to get someone else to put it in the DVD player and press play for you. Because otherwise it is not worth it.
They should hand these out on car windshields.
Oh.
Would have been a lot more helpful.
They just stick the disc in between the fucking wiper and the windshield.
I'd rather watch it scratched up than watching it.
Okay. I think we're good. Let's go ahead and do scores. Steve, you go ahead and go first.
Shit, I'm trying to think if there... Did I say it had any redeeming qualities? The storyboards. Yeah, the storyboards. Okay. I'll go ahead... And I like the voice actor. I'll go ahead and give this 0.5 out of 5 poorly integrated, crappy armor designs.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and give this... I think this is the very first time I've done this. I'm gonna give it a 0 out of 5 risen cities. That's... It's that bad, guys. It's almost on so bad it's good level, but it's just not, like, ridiculous enough to enjoy for that, even that.
If there was a dragon, then it would be so bad it's fun, but there is no dragon.
Yeah, I don't know, there is a dragon, but...
Well, there is a dragon. Okay, well, it's the Mandarin thing at the end that you talked about. If that came out, then that worked.
Yeah, it's like, I like superficially the Iron Man fighting the dragon, but, you know, it's still not good.
What if this whole thing is just a metaphor for Tony's alcoholism and sobriety, and we just missed the whole damn point because it's supposed to make you bored?
I don't think it is, Steve.
Okay.
I think you're safe.
I tried.
I appreciate the effort, Steve. Yeah, let's go ahead and give that's the score, 0 out of 5. Shit, it's my turn, and I was trying to think of a topic last night, and nothing ever came up. And now I've got to think of one.
Well, while you think of one, I'll just sit here killing time. Maybe play some Tetris.
No, you got to entertain the folks.
Okay, well we can get a screen share thing going. You can record me playing Tetris. No, I'm kidding.
No, well, I'm not doing that.
No, that's too much work. Okay. So there's very little Iron Man to consume outside of the movies and the animated stuff. So I kind of feel bad for anyone that is genuinely interested in the character, because all I can recommend is go buy these 4 or 5 omnibuses and read them all at once. He's just one of those characters where, like, you have to read runs and you have to read him progress. Over the summer I read like 300 Iron Man comics all at once, and that's why I like him as much as I do.
Okay. You know, I think I've got something. What if we talk about Let's Plays?
About Let's Plays? How do you mean?
Like just talk about the concept of the Let's Play.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know, Let's Players on YouTube, the process of doing Let's Plays, just
the idea of watching someone play a game as opposed to you playing it.
Yeah, just all of that, because I find that really interesting, because it's something that should be boring, but it's not.
It's not at all. I do it all the time. I watch it all the time. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think that could be interesting. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about, because I've been watching a lot of Let's Plays lately, so...
Maybe you should just make the video of this, you playing Ratchet & Clank, or the video for that, you playing Ratchet & Clank as we talk.
Or I'll just put in a video game, a couple games, and play it, probably.
Yeah, or something like that, yeah. Just make it a Let's Play of something as we talk about Let's Plays.
Yeah, and I mean, it wouldn't be game commentary, but I could do that. Yeah, Cool. So that's what we'll do next time. I don't know who's going to be there for it, but we'll see what happens.
I'm trying to think if we know. Maybe I can rope Dan into this.
Yeah, I'd be down for that.
He is a video game guy, so.
Cool. All right. Well, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Politician.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.